Good, ready? I'd like to call this meeting to order. City of Groves, notice of a regular meeting of the City Council Chamber, Groves City Hall, January 18th, 2020, at 5:02 p.m. Would everybody rise for the prayer and pledge? Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you assist us with our business tonight and guide us in your wisdom. We ask that you protect all of our city employees and staff of all of our first responders and be with the citizens as we progress through this trying time. We ask that you also protect all of our service people, stateside and abroad, and be with them and protect them with all of your might. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call. Mayor Warren, here. Mayor Pro Tem Baden,
Here.
Councilmember McAdams,
Here.
Councilmember Dugas,
Here.
Councilmember Oliver.
Here.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's meeting. Any news media that's here. First item, or item number 4 on the agenda will be to approve the minutes of the January 4th, 2020 City Council meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes in January 4th, 2020 council meeting.
I second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the January 4th, 2020 City Council meeting. Do I have any questions? Okay, there being none, we'll vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Baden.
Aye.
Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Councilmember Dugas.
Aye.
Councilmember Oliver.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 5 will be reports and citizen comments. I know we have a few reports today. One will be from our inspection and ordinances department, Mr. Maye and Mr. Pedroza.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
My name is Don Pedroza, Bill 50, City of Groves. We're bringing 2 items before you as far as ordinances goes. One of them is for commercial vehicles. Right now, our ordinance is really extremely vague, almost non-existent as far as commercial vehicles and where they can go and where they actually can park and any particulars that they have on their particular lots that they might be parking on. And we're like, with this, yes, the one that he's just passed out, kind of showing them what we come up with to maybe enhance and also maybe get them in proper places that we think commercial vehicles should be in, and not so much in a residential commercial setting, more of a heavy commercial, which would be item 4, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This would be a big step because we don't have anything, like I said, pertaining to commercial vehicles and their parking. We have screening ordinances that says, you know, if you're up against a residential district or home, you have to put a proper screening fence between that home or that residential district if you're a commercial property. But that's about all. All this other stuff, the item 2, item 3, item 4, and even item 5 are all stuff that we've added in to try to hopefully enhance or actually make an ordinance for commercial vehicles in the city of Groves.
Don, if I may, real quick, let me just give the council some background. Main Avenue on the other side of 73, between 73 and Gulfway Drive, it's kind of been a semi-industrial, not semi-industrial, it's been basically, I'd say, kind of the area where we have a lot of our businesses, like our plumbers and shops and things of this nature. And recently, I guess in the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen a proliferation of dump truck drivers that basically have found that the property under the current zoning meets the ability to put a business there for truckers, for trucks. However, the ordinance is so vague that right now, if we don't look at changing the ordinance, all you need is a 50 by 150 lot, and you can park your trucks there without a business location, without an office, without water and sewer. It's just basically a glorified parking lot. So what Don and Adam are trying to do is research around what other cities are doing, and they found that basically no other city lets people do this. So they're going to kind of just go over some things they think would help us in the future to change the ordinance with the city attorney's permission and make sure it's all legal. That would probably help us to improve who's already there and make sure that they end up with some type of a sign, some type of building, and water and sewer to basically constitute being a real business. And of course, there's some screening things and so forth. Right now, if we don't change it, then we may see more people coming in and trying to just use it as a, for lack of a better term, a glorified parking lot.
And I would like to remind everybody that this is under reports, so this is not on the agenda, there's no vote. We can ask a few questions if you'd like, but remember, we're just receiving information that this is what they're working on at this time. There is no vote at this time, this is just regarding information. I do have a question for you, Don. In changing an ordinance like this, and Dee may be able to help as well, are there any type of grandfather clauses that may exempt them from having to do the new things since they were already set up?
Well, the only grandfather clause that most cities have, including roads, is that if you're already established as a building and new ordinances come in, then because you already are CO'd to be a business or certificate of occupancy, and you are noticed by the city as being a legitimate business, then you have to almost make provisions for them, because when they came in, they met all the specifics for their business to be in that location. So yes, there is, I guess, a grandfather clause, if that's how you want to word it.
But if they had already met them before, then they most likely have most of these things already set up.
Well, you know, as far as the commercial vehicles, there's really,
The commercial vehicles is not on here, I get that, but,
yeah, other businesses that
okay.
have already kind of have met all the specific requirements.
Are there any loopholes for businesses not open to the public? They operate, but they don't offer a service, a walk-up service?
I'm sorry.
For instance, I have a business. We are not open to the public. I do not receive customers in my business. It is strictly for my people
Yes, sir.
and deliveries. So, I didn't know if that mattered. Because you're saying certificate of occupancy.
Well, every business is required to have a certificate of occupancy.
I understand.
That's, everybody knows that you have a business.
Okay.
Regardless of-
Requiring them to have a building, they don't have to be open to the public though, even
No,
if they
sir.
have.
No, they don't have to offer any kind of services as far as restroom areas or anything like that. No, sir.
Captain,
I know Mr. Black's got some answers for us, but if they didn't start it with a CO, and they didn't come and say they were starting, and underneath the guidelines, then they're not really supposed to be there, is that correct? I mean,
That's the way I've always viewed it. Yes, certificate of occupancy tells that everybody that's either comes to that location or says, yes,
My other question, do any of the, besides the one service, do the other ones have theirs? Have they all applied for theirs? Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead, James, I'm sorry.
I think we better not talk about that,
Okay.
just the general idea of what you're proposing. And answer your question, Mayor, when you change a zoning ordinance, if a business is there and they were there legally in the beginning, they're a non-conforming use and they can stay there until they go out of business. Once they move or close their business, they can't be replaced with if they were non-conforming, you can't, a new business can't stay.
I got
Or even the business that was there, that's gonna be operating the same way as it did, but as another business altogether, they would have to
you.
comply.
But I guess, I have a quick question. Right now, if there's a business that's basically working with you to comply to the current zoning requirements, okay, and they haven't met them yet for some reason, okay, does that still leave it open if the ordinance changes that?
That would, I
I
think,
think
be up
that's
to
just a
council.
back question you have to deal with when you change your ordinance.
Okay.
Situation.
What if they haven't met any of the requirements of the ordinances? They just walked in and just started being a trucking company?
And that
They don't have a
happens,
building, they don't have water, sewer, anything.
that happens, especially with something like this, because it was, like I said, for the commercial vehicles parking in, this is a commercial, a light commercial, which is the C2, is with the area that we're speaking of on Main.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says they can't just come in and start parking their vehicles, because from my understanding, the hard surface that we're trying to implement for these guys is just, now it's just, we have an ordinance and it's just for residential, not commercial application, correct?
So commercial property, you can park on the grass where you can't in a residence.
Basically, the only thing that gets them, that's if they truck and they come out and they start cleaning mud all over our streets, we have a stormwater prevention program that is specifically, that's a violation in that, so we can do other things other than look at an ordinance to try to get them to comply.
So Don, the 5 items we have here, they would be, we consider these as the ideas that y'all would like to look into.
Just something for y'all to, and if you even want to add or take away, that'd be the council call on that.
I think the most important one there is the fact, and I think it's a great idea on their part, is basically in the future, once the ordinance is passed and once the council approves it, make C3 the zone that you have to go to for trucking handling.
For bigger trucks, because in, say in Port Arthur, they actually have, the only way to park a commercial vehicle such as a dump truck or larger, you have to go into a heavy commercial zone. We don't have, our C3 is a heavy commercial zone, so that's why I place that in there to be somewhat like what Port Arthur is, kind of mimicking what they do.
Councilmember Oliver, you had a question?
Is there a time frame when you start discussing what they have to comply with? Is there a time frame that you give them that they need to meet to be able to meet whatever your?
Because there's really not much to enforce, they kind of had to ask them to do some things even through our stormwater prevention, because our ordinance doesn't have anything stating what they can do. I mean, there's really nothing that I can say or do to stop them if they want to park in the grass or in the dirt.
But when you talk to
According to our
them and say, okay, this is what you have to do to comply,
Yes, sir.
then is there a given time that they have to comply, or is it just open-ended whenever they get it?
Well, we're trying to, yeah, in item 5, that it addresses that in 90 days. Right now, not so much, no, sir. It's up to how they can progress and get in just.
Okay, so after the 90 days, let's say that they got half of it done. Is there?
I would talk to Mr. Soaps and ask how to go about doing it, if he wants me to bring them to court and make them comply or stop.
Councilman Oliver, this may be helpful. What usually what happens with Don and with Adam, if we've got a willing participant and they're making progress, then the city will continue to work with them as long as they're making progress. If in fact they seem like they don't care, if they've abandoned the project, or they're avoiding Don, they're avoiding Adam, they're just trying to, then they're a little more strict and they're not going to work with them on as much. But as long as they're making progress to get to the goal that's been set by the city, that Don and Adam have been over backwards to work with.
On this
That's
particular,
understandable, but
But they do have their limits. They do have their limits.
On this particular item, I was waiting kind of on what the council was going to do before we start telling these people what to do. I wanted to have something clear saying, look, this is what you have to do if you want to stay here with this dump truck. These are all the minimum requirements of your business at that particular location. So we kind of just ease back just a little bit in order for our council can have the opportunity to look at it and see what they're going to do.
So in order to change this, how long a period of time does this take? I mean, is it a matter of writing a new ordinance with the plat?
You have to amend the zoning ordinance, there's a process you have to do.
Right,
It takes several meetings.
right, yeah, I remember back when we did the big, you know, we started doing all about the piece of deed and all those ordinances, when we started about after reading with the houses and all that.
If I may, Councilman, what Don is doing is actually he's taking the stormwater prevention program and he's using that to require them to have a hard surface so they won't put mud and all kinds of grits and stuff on it. Right. So that one he can enforce right now because that's part
Yeah,
of
I
our stormwater.
understand that.
And that's a big improvement.
How do we as a council get this started, start working for this?
I think you just need to give them permission to continue doing what they're doing. We'll work on
So is that
it,
something
see
that,
where to put it in the ordinance and
Mr.
come
Black,
back with a proposal.
would you mind, I mean, just, obviously not at this time, but take a look, make sure that none of this violates any,
Sure.
yeah,
Well,
okay.
And we have to see how we're going to amend it to do it.
We can't actually start enforcing it until it becomes an ordinance, right?
With the exception of the stormwater.
Right.
I would think that, I would like to see it get started, start looking into it right now. And get the ball rolling fast.
I think y'all are on the right track.
I think so. I like all this stuff, Tom. Thank y'all very much.
We just kind of going forward. Adam and myself, I think we worked pretty good together. And this would be for the second one. That we'd like to.
If I may, let me reiterate that Adam's job was created about 4 or 5 years ago, Adam, and he's been great help to the city and a great help to Don. They work together. And in any event, the things that they've been doing, they've really been productive, and I want to thank them for the fact that they've done a lot of hard work and they've gone out of their way to make sure that they've got not just problems but answers to some of those problems.
So this area off of Main,
Yes, ma'am.
going towards Gulfport, to the right, that's C2?
Both sides are C2.
Okay.
I think that's on the map, on the side.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
The second one is going to be a residential changes for the ordinance if you could. And it deals with, of course, the printout that you have is what's in our ordinance right now. And the red is what I'd like to change to, of course. Right now, it's labeled as 1 to 4 family residential district. If you look at the map, the zoning map, at the very beginning, it started out as 1 and 2 family. When I built my house on Howell Street in 1989, I'm sorry, 98, it was one, I talked to Mr. Lewis, and it was a 1 and 2 family. Later on, it blew up to be, I don't know, they were starting to put 6 duplexes, apartments in little bitty areas. And so I think in 2008, they looked at it and did some rezoning then. Is that right?
As I remember, they changed it from 1 to 2 to 1 to 4.
We required more green space too in that time.
Since then?
Yes, sir.
So what I'd like to do is change it back to the original 1 and 2 family.
That eliminates your 4-family quadplexes.
Yes, sir.
And about what we talked about a while back was that if you go to the 80-foot lot, it also strengthens that code, that ordinance. because it's a bigger piece of property, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Listen, this is, kind of some of the guidelines Nederland's has started using.
That's the 80-foot width lots is what the city of Nederland, I think this past year has started to
I
implement.
think Port Neches is looking at it.
Newland started, I think, we're actually looking at like we're.
Yeah, okay.
And to give you an idea, if you'll look at your map, anything in the brown is currently okay for duplexes and fourplexes if they meet the requirements. So that's a big chunk of our city if you look at the,
I have had quite a few people concerned about me allowing duplexes, and by the ordinance, I have to allow duplexes that have to meet all the requirements. I can't stop them, but they have been in inquiries and telling me why am I doing this?
But always,
It's all ordinance.
the only way we can stop it by strengthening the ordinance.
Well, you change it to the 80-foot, you're gonna eliminate the ones that got by the green space with having a deeper lot. Some of the old lots that were 300-foot deep or, 200 something. Because they're still 50-foot wide on the front, and they were able to squeeze them in there because they had the green space in the back.
My lot on Howell is 80 by 300.
Yeah.
And to me, that's, if somebody can come up with a land like that, then, but it look good, but put
I do
it
have one other
on a
thing.
50-foot, it's top.
Mayor, on the commercial property, in the essence that they were trying to get a rezone of a lot that was gonna bumper a residential piece of property. It was residential, they wanted to change it. We have a bumper zone at the old Lindenmeyer Park, next to Miss Olivia's house of 100 feet. I think that we should add some type of bumper zone of any structures or parking up against any residential property on commercial property that bumps up to it to enhance this ordinance. If it's not but 25 feet, just something they can't park a 18-wheeler that's been
Boarded up
to the man's fence, wooden fence.
Do you need me to bring anything to
No,
council?
I'm just saying,
That's
I was
something
making that
we can do here.
suggestion. I was thinking about that the other day when we were talking about selling Lindenmeyer Park, about the 100-foot buffer zone.
it's still there. and it's
I understand.